Now, there is no doubt in my mind that when it comes to hidden secrets and Easter eggs, Five Nights at Freddy's sits at the top of the leaderboard of performing these successfully. However, when you're talking about a franchise that's been around for more than 7 years, there's gotta be a couple Easter eggs that we've missed or just don't understand the meaning behind. And so, as we dive into the mysterious world of Five Nights at Freddy's, let's do a quick mystery so far. I'm pretty sure that something crazy happens when you click that subscribe button. I'll give you a second to figure it out.
Nothing is guaranteed to happen when you click the subscribe button, but if you do you will gain plus 500 respect points and Sandwichly himself will give you a high five. Subscribing does not guarantee that Freddy Fazbear will give you a hug and that William Afton will not stuff you into an animatronics suit. Sandwichly Entertainment is not responsible for death or dismemberment.
Pretty cool, right? Alright, let's get into the video. Now, when we try to solve a complex franchise that spans multiple games, more books than Stephen King has ever written, and a movie that's supposedly coming out, there's gotta be a couple things we've missed. And now when it comes to trying to solve an unsolvable mystery, we don't actually have to look that far. Within the second game of the franchise, Five Nights at Freddy's 2, there is a mystery that we still have not yet been able to solve. Now, within the fun, chaotic mess that was Five Nights at Freddy's 2, there's these two animatronics that we have no idea who they are, why they are, and what really significance they bear in the franchise. And if you haven't guessed it yet, I'm talking about Shadow Freddy and Shadow Bonnie. Now, these two characters themselves are mysteries because they rarely ever show up. They're not actually meant to be original animatronics or characters that we face within the game. So for example, the regular Freddy is something that we actually can predict and put the mask on and fight against. However, Shadow Bonnie and Shadow Freddy work differently. Shadow Freddy, for example, when you're looking at the camera in parts and service, will rarely appear and will actually be there on the floor. There is no explanation as to why he's there, but we just know that it's a rare occurrence that does happen. However, its counterpart, Shadow Bonnie, is actually very different. Shadow Bonnie is actually truly horrifying because Shadow Bonnie just appears in your office. There's nothing to stop Shadow Bonnie from actually getting to you or appearing in the office. It just does, and it can be quite scary, to be honest with you. Now, when it comes to explaining why these animatronics appear the way they do and why they show themselves, there's really nothing. So for example, in Five Nights at Freddy's 3, Shadow Bonnie makes another appearance in the minigames. However, there's nothing beyond that to explain Shadow Bonnie's lore. We just see Shadow Bonnie as a glitchy 8-bit figure that doesn't really do much to explain why they exist and what they do. Channels like Game Theorists and FNAF may have broadly covered them and maybe why they existed, but there's no substantial evidence to explain why they exist. I've heard some theories as far as to say that they are the victims of Aftons that weren't killed in animatronics, so they don't really have a real form. However, that doesn't make sense because throughout the franchise we've known that a victim has to die with, to, or connected to an animatronic for the spirit to inhabit that. So there's no real logic behind that. I think this is still just an unsolved mystery. There's nothing to explain them and nothing substantial to explain where they came from or why they're there in Five Nights at Freddy's 2. You guys are welcome to theorize in the comments. Now, Five Nights at Freddy's 4 has to be one of the most iconic Five Nights at Freddy's games, and I dare say one of the best. I'm not kidding. I think it could be one of the best Five Nights at Freddy's games. However, I gotta say, there's nothing like running from door to door listening for breathing to ensure that you do not die a very painful and, I gotta say, a pretty horrifying doom. But besides that, Five Nights at Freddy's 4 has one secret that's consistently dumbfounded fans forever, and even Scott Cawthon has admitted that the contents of this mystery have changed multiple times. Now, I'm sure by now I've probably already spoiled what that thing was, if you know. It's the Five Nights at Freddy's 4 box. Just in case you don't know, when you complete Five Nights at Freddy's 4, you're given a quick little cutscene. You are shown a small, black, rectangular box that has 2 locks on it. With these 2 locks, you just click on them as the player, and nothing really happens. However, some text appears upon the screen. It says, "Perhaps some things are best left forgotten, for now." Now, obviously, this little cutscene here is a surprise to any person that was playing the game at the time. However, these contents of the box, of course, have been a major point of discussion for Five Nights at Freddy's theorists and fans. It even got so crazy that when fans were trying to figure it out, Scott even stated himself that he actually had changed the contents multiple times because they just never made sense. The fans would never be happy with the answer because at the time of him creating Five Nights at Freddy's 4, the answer was something the fans wouldn't want or wouldn't like. So Scott Cawthon had to change it, and I gotta say, it drove the community mad. And to this day, we never really know what was in the box. Popular channels, again, like Game Theorists and FNAF, and many others, have theorized about the contents. Some of these range from simple tools, which could be like the tools that William Afton or Henry used to work on the animatronics. However, it can even get as crazy to be the body of a dead girl or a robot girl, and this is based off the books. If you don't know the book, there's a girl named Charlie who's actually a robot built off a real-life version of herself that died, and the other one being as far as to say it's the body of the crying child. The reason being then is because William Afton would have tried to build his son back together, just like an animatronic, the only way he knew how to really piece things together. Now, of course, this item is so iconic. I would even dare to say that if there was a FNAF museum, this would have to be on the first exhibit and getting its own little hall, because it really just captured that much attention from the FNAF community. It was that important to the theorizers, to the gameplay. Everyone worked together and spent their time trying to solve what was in it. However, nowadays, the series has kind of moved on. But that still doesn't mean that with the books coming out and multiple other things besides the games giving clues as to what could be in there, and it still makes us wonder what is in the box now. As always, the contents have changed, so who knows what Scott has written in his big storybook on what could be in the box and what was the final object that he decided is in the box. Now, of course, I want you guys to leave your theories down below and theorize, what do you think was in the box? And what do you think is in there now and what was in there in the beginning? And now when it comes to the personal life of William Afton, there's no one more confusing. I mean, let's be honest here. William Afton was able to murder kids in his free time, run a full-fledged business, and manage a family, and be a husband, and do all sorts of stuff. And we don't know if he did these properly, but we know that it must have been pretty crazy. But there's one aspect of the life that we don't really know that much about. We don't know about Mrs. Afton, or if it was Mrs. Afton. We assume, because of Ballora, that Ballora was built by William Afton to kind of model herself as Mrs. Afton, the mother of the 3 kids of William Afton, and the wife of William Afton, as she gives lines like,
"Why do you hide inside your walls when there is music in my halls? All I see is an empty room, no more joy, an empty tomb."
Now we know from Ballora's lines here that she is talking about William Afton after the death of Elizabeth and the crying child. We just know that those two had sadly passed away due to William Afton's animatronics, and he probably went into a state of grieving.
Yes, even us evil serial killers can express our feelings. Though I killed more kids than I have fingers does not mean I could not feel bad for the ones that died who I loved. I will miss Elizabeth, and also that other kid I had that cried a lot. What was his name? Kevin? Evan? Billy? Who cares? Back to the video.
Now the issue with all of this is I assume that William Afton's wife left. She had probably left because William Afton locked himself away, whether it was with the sister location animatronics, constantly trying to go kill kids. Who really knows? But we just know that it was a pretty dark time for the family, and we assume that she left. However, do we actually know that she left? Some people have theorized that she just left because she found out what he was doing and she just couldn't live with someone like that. I mean, could you blame her? But the other secret and some things that I've seen mentioned are, A, we don't know her identity, but B, do we know that she left alive? I mean, this is crazy to assume because it's such a dark deed, but we are talking about William Afton. What if he did kill her? What if her spirit is the one that is in Ballora? I mean, listen to this line from her. When Ballora kills William Afton, you hear her say,
"Admit it, you wanted to let me in."
So obviously they have a connection. So what if Ballora was actually the spirit of his wife and she actually was murdered by him and she took over Ballora? Now, of course, nothing's confirmed. We don't even know her name. We know nothing about her. And her identity has definitely been a mystery within the franchise. So what's up, everybody? Another mystery that I actually just uncovered while I was playing live on twitch.tv/sandwichly, someone actually mentioned the bodies hanging in Sister Location. And if you don't know, when you're playing Sister Location on one of the nights, you'll notice that in Ballora's gallery, there's going to be 2 bodies.
Quick correction, there is actually a body in Ballora's gallery and another in Funtime Auditorium. Sorry.
Hanging from the ceiling. They are going to be obviously dead, but here's the mystery. No one knows who they are or why they're hanging and if they did it themselves. Now, I have a couple theories about this, but there's actually really nothing mentioned about them. The only thing that people assume is that the animatronics did this to them to make it seem like it was possibly, them, self-harm or suicide, but I actually think otherwise. And my little theory here is kind of that I think that William Afton's illusion discs, what he obviously uses to make the Funtime animatronics look scary, and what he uses to control his son, I think that they used those on the actual engineers, so they actually were so scared and petrified of being locked in the location that the only escape they saw out was through death. Now, this mystery has never been solved. No one is actually able to find out why they killed themselves and why they're in Ballora's gallery. We don't know their names. We know nothing about them. But I think this is something that, if we look deeper, we could try to find a result, but there's really nothing. There's no proof. We don't even know what their names are. We don't even know why they're in there. We know nothing about them. We just know that they sadly did die in Ballora's gallery, and we don't know who killed them officially. Now, when it comes to today's Unsolved Mysteries, I just want to point out a lot of these are things that I have personally researched myself, and I couldn't find anything. I watched other YouTube videos, channels like Game Theorists, and others.
I just also want to point out I did go to Reddit and other places, but some of those theories made no sense and were more people hoping and less educated guessing or theorizing.
Who I tried watching their videos and they couldn't come up with satisfactory answers as to why these mysteries exist or why they're in the game and why they're included, what their meaning is. A lot of these mysteries hopefully maybe could get solved in the future. We'll never know. Future books, future games, maybe in the movie somehow. I don't really know. But a lot of these are just things that have never been answered, but we could get an answer sometime in the future. Now, of course, if you guys have any answers for these or have any theories, I would be so happy and honored if you guys put them in the comments down below. I'd love to comment on them, and I'd love to see what you guys are thinking. Because the FNAF community, we are one. We're one mind trying to solve this crazy mess that Scott Cawthon has put together.
Given to the glitch. Compliance will be rewarded. You know the call. You know your mission. Focus on the sound of my voice. Listen carefully. Listen closely. You know why you are here. You know why you have been called. You have been chosen. Hidden. The others will accept you. Let me have control. We can do this together. Without me, you will complete nothing and become nothing.
But we all love it, right? Hope you guys all enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe for more. We are getting super close to 300 subscribers, so every subscribe would be a major awesome thing. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Peace.